Everyone, thanks for tuning into this morning's video. We're doing the first European outlook of 2014, which I believe it was, I think, the 16th of December, the last European outlook that I did. Been a bit poorly over Christmas and the New Year. Was a bit laid up with shingles, actually, and it affected my eye. Just sort of getting back into a swing of things now, starting to get a little bit better. So, about a month on, over a month, I thought I'd bring back the European outlook for this Monday morning. Now, before I get on with the first European outlook of 2014, just want to talk about the advertising. There's video ads on my pages at gazweathervids.com. Keep playing on the video ad. You'll be supporting gazweathervids.com. Thanks very much for doing that. So, the last time we spoke, it was very, very mild across the continent. There was no cold air really anywhere to be seen, and I said it would be interesting to see whether when we came back after Christmas we got some cold air filtered in. Now, I thought we'd be coming back just after the New Year, coming back much later into January, and indeed we do have some cold air in play across the continent. So the driving factor for much of Europe this week is going to be this area of high pressure up over Scandinavia, stretching back in towards western parts of Russia. Got low pressure down through the Mediterranean. That's a classic signal for a Scandinavian high. Everything really is set up for quite a cold spell across much of the continent. There's one fly in the ointment though, which is the Atlantic. Very active Atlantic and a strong jet stream feeding in areas of low pressure, and that just keeps western parts of Europe out of the firing line for that cold air. But many northern and eastern and central and eastern northeast parts of the country will be at risk of some cold air this week. So the upper air temperatures show that the cold air is in over Scandinavia, stretching back in towards northeastern Europe and western parts of Russia. Much of Europe at the moment is still quite mild, particularly down in the southeast. Very mild upper air temperatures there through eastern parts of the Mediterranean, central parts of the Mediterranean as well. It's cooler in the west, but it isn't by any means cold. The dew point showed up better where the cold air is. It's definitely over Scandinavia, stretching down into Denmark, northern parts of Germany, Poland, and then going east and northeast into western parts of Russia. Now, through the Mediterranean, it's a good deal warmer in terms of those dew points, and really, for western parts of Europe, have got some colder patches in terms of the dew points, but really, it isn't particularly cold in the west. The dividing line, this area of precipitation here, stretching through central parts of Europe, much of this is rain, but on the northern edge, it will be falling as snow, particularly to get towards Black Sea. Mainly dry, really, apart from a few snow flurries up to the north, across Scandinavia and western parts of Russia. Quite dry in the west, actually. Some showery bits and pieces of rain coming down through the Low Countries into Denmark. Some heavy showers over the Pyrenees, but much of the west actually quite dry today. But through the Mediterranean, lots of heavy showers and thunderstorms, longer spells of rain as well, associated with that area of low pressure. Temperatures show that it's bitterly cold up to the northeast. Maximums today are just minus 10 to minus 12 once you get on towards the border with Russia. But from Germany westwards, it's pretty mild actually. It's on the chilly side from behind Britain. It's around average, but it's not cold. You couldn't say that's cold. 6-7 degrees, and going down to much of France is quite mild, really, for the time of year. Very mild down in the southeast of the Mediterranean. Temperatures holding up around the Adriatic into the Balkans, around 15-16 degrees. Very, very mild for this time of the year. As we move through into middle of the week, we're going to have this area of high pressure still sitting there over Scandinavia, feeding in that cold air into northern and eastern parts of the continent. Low pressure coming in from the Atlantic, battling against that high pressure. So I'd say everything really set up to give Europe a cold week this week, but the low pressure off the Atlantic is just the complicating factor for western parts of Europe. Upper air temperatures show it's bitterly cold from much of Scandinavia, stretching back in towards the northeast of Europe. From Germany westwards and southwestwards, though, it's mainly on the mild side, as it is from much of the Mediterranean. The cold air is definitely up in the northeast. Dew points again showing it's below freezing, bitterly cold. Freezing cold, really, for much of Scandinavia. Going out to the east of Germany, much of Poland, on in towards the Ukraine, and then through into western parts of Russia. Bitterly cold there. Not particularly cold in other parts of the continent. Have outbreaks of rain coming through western parts of Europe through the middle of the week, so rain will be clearing in British Isles, going into North Sea, stretching down through France into northern parts of Spain as well. mainly dry to be eased about. Those showers through the Mediterranean will be easing down through the middle of the week, but still quite heavy, perhaps around the Balkans and going down in towards parts of Greece. And then up to the north, it's mainly dry, but bitterly cold. Will be some snow flurries in places. Till we get over towards the Black Sea and on into southern parts of Russia, where there'll be some quite heavy outbreaks of snow. Bitterly cold still up in the northeast, with temperatures not getting above freezing. Look at that, maximums of -12, -13 for western parts of Russia. Central western parts of Europe will be a good deal milder. Through to the end of the week, the high pressure is still there across Scandinavia, especially back into western Russia. Low pressure coming in off the Atlantic, storming against that high pressure to some degree, but always keeping it milder in the west. Still got some sort of low pressure there over central parts of the Mediterranean. So still bitterly cold across Scandinavia, northeastern parts of Europe. And then we have the rain and milder air coming into the western parts of Europe, and it's not particularly cold over the Mediterranean and southeast of Europe either. The dew points again show it's freezing cold, much of Scandinavia, northeastern Germany, Poland, Ukraine, on up towards western parts of Russia, and northeastern Europe generally freezing cold. Now, elsewhere, there are some colder pockets, but it's a lot milder through central and western areas, very mild still down in the southeast of Europe. Rain coming into Ireland and Britain, also into western parts of France and northern Spain at the end of the week. That could stall to some degree as it comes up against that high pressure, and it could turn to snow once it gets towards, say, the Low Countries and the North Sea. We're going to have to keep an eye on that one. Temperatures, when it's cooler at the end of the week in the west, temperatures of maximums around 3-4 degrees through Britain down in towards France, but it's not particularly cold, but really cold air is over towards the northeast of Europe still. And then finally, as we move through towards the weekend, we're going to find low pressure blasting through here across the country, starting to push that high pressure back towards Russia by the look of it. So the Geopot wants to break down the Scandinavian high and reintroduce low pressure off the Atlantic. Now that low pressure could have some quite cold air associated with it coming through the Atlantic out of Greenland. I'm not sure about, but the upper air temperatures certainly show some really quite cold air hitting Ireland and Britain through next weekend. I would expect to see that modified quite a lot, but we'll have to keep an eye on it. That bitterly cold air over Scandinavia and northeast Europe beginning to recede back as that low pressure pushes in, but very mild ahead of the low pressure. There's a big warm sector there through much of Germany, France, going down in Spain and Portugal, and it's still pretty mild through most of the Mediterranean as well. Geopot showing it turns colder up in the northwest through Britain and Ireland at the weekend. I say I'm not sure about it. Have to keep an eye on it. I expect it to be modified. That freezing cold air up to the northeast is beginning to be pushed back, but it's still very cold, such as Scandinavia and western parts of Russia, northeastern Europe as well. The precipitation shows that the rainfall comes through the British Isles and Ireland, heads on in towards northern France, the Low Countries, the North Sea, Denmark, some parts of Scandinavia. Will turn to snow across Denmark and southern Scandinavia. And as I say, the cold air coming in behind it will be introducing snow showers to Scotland and Northern Ireland. Central air is mainly dry, and then some very heavy showers or thunderstorms again down across the southeast of Europe. They could start to turn wintry down in the southeast Europe. I think things could start turning colder there next weekend as that cold air from the northeast begins to slip southwards. You may find snow beginning to appear in the Balkans, so there could be a big change from the very mild weather earlier in the week to snow down in the southeast of Europe later in the week. Still freezing cold up in the northeast, it's being pushed back, and it is turning much colder down in the southeast of Europe as well, so that will be something to keep an eye on. Then it's quite mild through much of Germany, France, down into Spain and Portugal, but it turns colder up to the northwest through Ireland and the British Isles. So in summary, well, most of northeast Europe is going to be cold this week. Elsewhere, central west areas actually going to have quite a mildish week. And we're basically going to be looking at that cold air beginning to recede back towards next weekend, probably, maybe slipping down in the southeast of Europe. But really, the bitterly cold weather is through Scandinavia and the northeast. It's milder to the west, and that milder air eventually starts to push through later in the week and towards next weekend. That's the plan. It's a complicated pattern, though. It wouldn't take much of an adjustment, that high pressure, to cling on next weekend, and maybe even introduce the cold air further west. So we're going to have to keep an eye on it, complicated pattern. That's it for now. I hope you enjoyed the first European outlook of 2014, and I hope there's many more to come. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.